Hey guys, what is up and welcome back to the channel. So as the title of this video would suggest, Cemu 1.15.7 is now released to all Cemu emulator patrons. On top of this, we have gotten some new news in relation to how Cemu emulator is going to be released both now and in the future. So before I go into everything that has changed in 1.15.7, I'm going to read you out a short post that the developers of Cemu have given to us in relation to this new schedule. So here is what they have told us. Hey patrons, after some consideration, we have decided to switch to a fixed release cycle instead of our current flexible one where we try to reach a certain quantity of improvements for each release. Going forward, this is our plan. New Cemu releases will be every second Friday. In other words, there will be exactly 2 weeks between each new release. You may have already noticed that the last 3 releases were closer together than usual. That's because we were already experimenting with the new release cycle but didn't want to announce it officially until we were sure we were going to stick to it. In other news, we have a much bigger progress report coming later this month or in early June, so please stay tuned. The TLDR version of this is we're now going to be getting 2 builds of Cemu emulator every month in comparison to the one we were previously getting, and we are going to be getting a big news report in the next few weeks, so I am very excited to see what that news is about. I think I can speak for a lot of people in my community when I say that some news about the upcoming Vulkan API graphics backend would be very much so appreciated. Even if we don't get any news about Vulkan, I'm still really excited to see what the Cemu team is cooking up for us. Okay, so back to Cemu 1.15.7, let's now go over absolutely everything that has changed in this new Wii U emulator version. To start things off, we're going to be taking a look at some general changes where they have added a brand new visual indicator at game boot, which is going to display which controller and which controller profiles you are using. They have also added a new controller low battery warning, and they have also given us the option to simply disable these options if we do not wish to use them at all. Staying on general settings, they have fixed an issue where global precompiled shader settings would default to auto. If you were having any issues with shader caching stutter or any stutter in your games at all, especially so when utilizing a fully built shader cache, this new fix should completely fix that issue for you. Next up, they have fixed an issue where your settings.xml could corrupt or be completely deleted by accident when Cemu emulator crashed. To explain exactly what this has fixed, I'm going to have to quote the developers. The internal process of updating systems.xml is now more robust. Previously, there was a slim chance to lose all settings when Cemu crashed or force closed while settings.xml was being updated. This issue should now be fixed. Okay, so moving on to some CPU JIT changes, we have seen optimizations to the recompilation within Cemu emulator, and once again, I'm going to have to quote the developers as they have given us quite a long explanation of this process. Recompilation is already fast enough to generally not be noticeable, but it can lead to delay and microstutter in cases where a lot of new code is recompiled at once. Examples where the bottleneck can become apparent is frame drops or audio crackle when you first load a game, or initial delay when you boot a game for the very first time. With this optimization, these should now be slightly less severe, and in my testing so far, they are nearly unnoticeable. Okay, again, that's it for CPU JIT changes in this new version. Next up, we're going to be taking a look at some GX2 or graphical optimizations in the emulator. They have improved the accuracy and behavior of GX2 wait for flip and GX2 swap scan buffers. This fixes an issue where some games would run at completely the wrong frame rate. One example we have been given is Paper Mario Color Splash, where it would accidentally run at 60 frames per second and be unplayable in some sections due to this. Thanks to this new update, we are no longer forced to use the 30 frames per second lock pack for Paper Mario Color Splash, which means that paired with the optimizations from the previous version in relation to video playback, Paper Mario should now be fully playable on Cemu. Next up, they have fixed a bug in texture decode for format BC4. This is a bug that was introduced by Cemu 1.15.3, I believe, which was causing these horrible texture corruptions in Yoshi's Woolly World. Thanks to this new fix, these issues should now be completely fixed in 1.15.7. Staying on the topic of Yoshi's Woolly World, they have also fixed an issue where Cemu would crash if a game set up invalid shaders, and thanks to said fix, it has stopped issues with crashing in games like Pikmin 3 and the aforementioned Yoshi's Woolly World. Okay, so in relation to 1.15.7, there have also been 2 hotfix versions, so in the event that you're just using 1.15.7, there has been an upgrade titled 1.15.7b where they fixed a bug leading to random corruption in instruction stream, and yet another fix called 1.15.7c where they have completely fixed an issue in relation to the new graphical overlay where it would accidentally corrupt your graphical output and textures in game when used. Again, as usual, if you're using either of the old version, be it 1.15.7 or 1.15.7b, please make sure to upgrade to this latest C variant Cemu release version. Now, obviously, while a lot of you are going to be disappointed by the fact that we do not have a Vulkan release in this new version, do not fret, especially so if you are an AMD GPU user looking to get better performance out of Cemu emulator, as in the past few days I have released my full setup guide that's going to show you how to download, install and fully set up Linux Ubuntu 19.04. Please make sure to follow that guide or at least check it out in the event that you want much better performance. In my case, I was getting a 2.5 times better performance when using Linux over the Windows operating system with my RX 580. In relation to setup guides for Cemu emulator, to be honest, I'm not really too sure how it's going to proceed in future. As many of you know, usually I do a monthly guide for the monthly Cemu emulator version, but it may actually prove unfeasible or at least undoable to create and release a new guide every 2 weeks. So hopefully I'll be able to figure out exactly what's going to happen in relation to new upgrades and updates to Cemu guides. If you guys have any suggestions on the best way to maintain and make sure everyone knows all of the best settings for the latest Cemu versions, please let me know down below this video in a comment. In respect to performance, and especially so in relation to Breath of the Wild, the most popular game by far on this emulator, there is no performance improvement that I was able to measure in 1.15.7 over 1.15.6. However, if you are a 1.15.5 user, it is going to be especially beneficial to you to upgrade to either 1.15.6 or indeed 1.15.7 when it releases to the public. Thanks to the introduction of the threaded quantum setting in 1.15.6 and its inclusion also in 1.15.7, you can expect to have a much better performance when using this recompiler setting within the emulator. As always, you'll find my complete setup guide down in the description of this video, so if you want to get this awesome emulator setup, you can simply follow that guide. And as I also previously said, if you're looking to get Linux set up on your PC in order to get better performance on both Intel and AMD GPUs, you can also follow my guide. That will also be linked down in this video's description. I'm going to leave you with some extended gameplay footage showing off the brand new performance benchmark numbers we now have in 1.15.7. The gameplay footage you're watching right now is on a binned i7 8700K at 5.3 GHz, running at 4K resolution using an NVIDIA GTX 2080 Ti. Two very nice pieces of hardware I got to test out and test to see how The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild runs using them in a Cemu emulator. Again, at the end of this video, I want to give an absolutely massive thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. If you yourself want to help with the day-to-day running and just help out BSoD Gaming, please consider heading to the BSoD Gaming Patreon link down in this video's description and pledging your support. As I always say, pledges and donations are 100% not required, but they are definitely 100% appreciated and really do help with the day-to-day running of the channel. So once again guys, cheers for checking out the video. Remember to like it if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't, and as always, subscribe to the channel if you want to see all future videos from me.